The wind howled against the jagged cliffs, carrying with it the sound of rushing waves crashing far below. People stood frozen, staring in disbelief. A sleek black car dangled halfway off the edge, its front wheels clawing the gravel, its rear end tipping toward certain death. Inside, clinging to the steering wheel with white knuckles, was a woman the world knew too well, Evelyn Grant, the billionaire tech mogul. Her face, usually plastered across magazine covers with a flawless smile, was now pale and terrified. Every second, the car slid closer toward the abyss. Police officers, paramedics, and even trained rescue climbers had gathered, but none could reach her in time. The ground was unstable, the winds too strong. Everyone shouted orders, but no one dared take the final step. That's when a man pushed through the crowd, ordinary, unnoticed until now. A worn jacket clung to his broad shoulders, his jeans scuffed from years of hard work. He wasn't famous, he wasn't rich, he wasn't supposed to matter here. His name was Mark Carter, a single dad, a construction worker, a man who had learned long ago that sometimes you can't wait for heroes, you have to be one. Don't go down there. An officer barked as Mark stepped closer to the cliff, but Mark's eyes were locked on Evelyn. She was trembling, her lips moving in silent prayer. And in that moment, Mark didn't see the billionaire. He saw a mother just like his little girl's mother would have been, if she lived long enough. He cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted over the roar of the wind, "Hold on, I'm coming." The crowd gasped. Mark dropped to his knees and crawled across the gravel, ignoring the sting as sharp stones cut into his palms. The earth trembled under his weight. Every inch forward felt like tempting fate, but he'd been on scaffolds swaying hundreds of feet in the air. He knew how to trust his body, how to trust the ground when no one else did. "Daddy, you can fix anything," his daughter's voice echoed in his mind, from nights when he'd patched her broken toys with duct tape and whispered promises that somehow, they'd always be okay. Now, he had to prove her right. The cliff crumbled beneath the car. Evelyn let out a scream, the sound slicing through the storm. Mark lunged, gripping the metal frame of the passenger side. His muscles burned as he forced the car back an inch, just enough to buy time. "Open the door," he yelled. "Yeah, I can't," Evelyn sobbed, her hands locked around the wheel. Mark's voice softened, though the strain in his arms was unbearable. "Look at me. You're not a billionaire right now. You're just someone who needs help. Trust me." Her eyes, so wild with fear, met his. For the first time in her life, Evelyn Grant wasn't in control, and she let go. She pushed the door open, the metal groaning against the wind. Mark reached inside, pulling her with everything he had. His boots scraped against the gravel. For one horrifying moment, it seemed they would both go over. But with a roar, Mark twisted his body and yanked her free, collapsing backward onto the dirt as the car tipped, groaned and vanished into the sea below. Silence. Then, the crowd erupted. Cheers, cries, disbelief. Cameras clicked. Someone shouted, "He saved her. He saved her life." But Mark didn't hear them. He was staring at Evelyn, who clung to his jacket, sobbing against his chest. He patted her shoulder awkwardly, the way a man who wasn't used to praise might. "You're safe now," he murmured. For Evelyn, who had spent her life surrounded by money, power, and people who wanted something from here up, this was the first time in years she felt something real. Gratitude, vulnerability, humanity. Later, reporters swarmed, headlines blazed. "Mystery Man saves tech queen from certain death." Evelyn's PR team wanted to spin it into a story of resilience, branding, survival. But Evelyn refused. She asked only one thing: find him. When she finally arrived at Mark's small rental home days later, she expected a man basking in fame. Instead, she found him sitting at a tiny kitchen table, helping his 8-year-old daughter with math homework. The little girl looked up, eyes wide. "Daddy, is she the lady from the TV?" Mark just smiled. "Sweetheart, this is the lady who's alive because we believe in helping people." Evelyn blinked, stunned. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had treated her like just a broken bar a person. She pulled out a checkbook, ready to write a life-changing sum. Mark raised a hand. "I don't want your money. My daughter doesn't need riches. She needs to know her dad keeps his promises." For the first time in decades, Evelyn Grant was speechless. but she didn't walk away. Instead, she returned again and again, sometimes with business opportunities, sometimes just with ice cream for the little girl. And slowly, a bond grew, one not born of contracts or wealth, but of shared humanity. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Evelyn whispered to Mark, "I spent my life building empires, but that day on the cliff, you taught me something no fortune could buy. You taught me how much one act of courage, a broken bar, one act of kindness, a broken bar can change everything." Mark looked at her quietly, then at his daughter playing in the yard. He didn't need recognition. He didn't need fortune. He already had everything that mattered. Still, Evelyn smiled, because she knew her life had been saved twice. Once on that cliff, and once in a modest home where a single dad reminded her what it meant to be human. Final message. Sometimes, the greatest heroes don't wear uniforms or sit in corner offices. They're the single parents, the quiet workers, the ordinary people who rise in extraordinary moments. And in their courage, they remind us all, it's not what you have, but what you give, that truly saves lives.